Now, of course, we can't disregard security. We can make sure that only the clients we want are allowed to query our system. The configuration of our Barclay Internet name daemon is through the etc bind and name.conf, but you can see that's just a master file that includes other configurations. Those configurations include the etc bind and name.conf.options, and if we add to that the ACL trusted at the top of the file. The trusted is just a name that we are applying. It could be anything. We'll use this name later. But we're putting in the local host network, and we're putting in our 192.168.56.0 network. This is added in above our options. The options will continue down, but we're just making sure that we've got our allow query. So who can query this? And we're just specifying trusted. We're specifying who can do a zone transfer, and that's to copy the complete zone information from the DNS server to their local system. We're not allowing that. It doesn't need to be allowed. We only need to do zone transfers where we have secondary DNS servers or slave DNS servers that we've not configured. We want to allow recursive lookups, but we're only allowing recursive lookups from the trusted ACL. Recursion is where we don't host the database, but we have to go through and recurse for our client to the internet, which of course is going to be most of the activity. Once we've made changes to the configuration file, we either need to reload the configuration or we need to restart our server. But before we do that, it would be a good idea to check our configuration. And we have our tool for that named -checkconf and put in the path to the configuration file. We can put in our global configuration file that includes everything else. Once we've done that, we can then go through and restart our name service. We can always go through and view this now by securing our DNS server, looking at the configuration files, the access control list, and testing those configuration changes. Working on our Ubuntu 2 server, we can go through and take a look at its configuration file. So the global configuration file, when we take a look at it, is etc bind and /name.conf. But we can see that just includes other files. And the files that we need to look at is the options file. So I'm going to be a little bit lazy here. I'm going to go through and do a sudo and vim. And rather than me typing out the path through to the file, I could go through and just copy it from here, paste it down, and then move that to the top of the screen so it's clear what we're looking at, and hit the big Enter key. Above my options, I want to insert some lines, and this is going to be my access control list. So we can create an access control list and assign it a name. We're giving it the name trusted. This name could technically be anything, but we're going to make reference to this ACL later in the configuration. Trusted makes a good name, as it's going to be the devices that we trust. We're going to add in our 127 network, so 127.0.0.0/8. Don't forget the semicolons after each entry, and that includes a semicolon at the end of each line, so closing our brace brackets. Now, having done all of our hard work creating our access control list, we can put our access control list to use. I've deliberately only put in the local network so we can see our security at work. And we put it at work in allow directives. So here we're allowing queries. Queries are where we're doing a DNS query from a client and the information is hosted locally on the DNS server. And we're only going to allow this to the trusted ACL. Again, don't forget the extra semicolon, so between each item in the list and at the end of the list after the closing brace brackets. I can copy this line down because we have another type of query where the information isn't hosted locally and we're going to have to recurse it. So go and look for the client on the internet. And many lookups will be done through recursion. Again, we're only allowing this for trusted. Our third allow rule is going to be for zone transfers. This is where we're copying the complete zone database that we host to the local system. Now, this is only really going to be required where we have secondary or slave DNS servers. We're not using any, so I'm not going to allow zone transfers by anyone. I want to make sure that recursion is allowed, so I'm explicitly putting recursion yes, but of course you have to be in the access control list. Now, these are all the options that I need, so I'm ready now to go through and save my file. As I say, I'm deliberately not allowing the 192 network at the moment. I need to check my configuration, so I'm running my named -checkconf. I could just check the options file that I've just edited, but of course the name.conf includes everything, so it's a more thorough check. And then going ahead and restarting my bind9 service. All of this is being done on my Ubuntu 2 system. But to check its operation, I'm moving through to Ubuntu 1. So notice the prompt now changes to Ubuntu 1. I'm going to rerun my dig command, so !D. Now, you might think this has worked, but look at the warning, recursion requested but not available. There is no answer section, so it hasn't worked. Or has it? It kind of has worked, hasn't it? Because we were displaying the security. So if I go back onto Ubuntu 2, look in my options file, and add in then the 192.168.56.0 network using a 24-bit mask. Again, not forgetting those semicolons. Saving this. I'm pretty confident on that edit, so I'm just going to restart my bind daemon and then move back to Ubuntu 1, rerun my dig command, and now my answer section is there. We've tested our security and implemented our security so we know only allowed clients can access the DNS server.